Hi, I'm Pat, and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about a few things you may want to consider before you purchase a BMW i8. I've received many messages either in response to videos that I have here on YouTube or on my Instagram page, i8.pat, where people said, I want to buy a BMW i8, but I'm not sure what I should look for. This is a hard question to answer. I can't give you an all-inclusive answer to this because it's nearly impossible for me to be able to say, yes, these are the common areas and the common problems you want to look for, and these are the things you need to avoid, and these things are really great, because it seems that everybody's BMW i8 ownership is different. And I say that because I spend a lot of time on Bimmer Post and on the BMW i8 Facebook group. So I highly recommend you get on there, you read people's ownership experiences, questions, problems, concerns. That is the ultimate place to go, and I'll have a link in the description below for you to check those pages out, because they're going to be loaded with information that you want to review before you make a decision. So if you're shopping for a BMW i8, you may be excited about the look of the car. This looks really cool. I really want to drive it. I really want to enjoy it. But take pause. I suggest that you actually look for problems with the car to give you reasons not to buy it. And if you go into your purchase with that attitude, with the salesman there, you can point out problems and help negotiate exactly what you want to pay for the car. For example, a lot of the BMW i8s that I looked at that were used had marks here on the front bumper from people hitting curbs. Same with the wheels, same with up here, same with the rear wheel as well. So I would actually touch that and go, oh, you know, that's a problem, because that's going to need to be repainted. So things like that, look for them. They're going to stand out very clearly. Same with the front bumper. People have actually hit things with the front bumper and caused crinkles in this elastic material. So that happens. Point it out, say, hey, this is a problem. These sometimes go missing. Either they get stolen or somebody forgets to put this back on. And underneath here is the hole for your tow hook that's in the trunk, so you can screw the tow hook in here. Another issue that I normally see is either on the front of these bumpers, especially down here where it's painted, it's either been painted correctly or it's been repainted incorrectly. And what I mean by that is I've actually seen some i8s that have very deep holes in them from rocks. And that means that the bumper was not repainted correctly with a flexible paint. It doesn't have the flex additive included in it. So when a rock hits this, the paint chip goes flying and it creates a deep crater in the paint. That's bad. That will need to be repainted completely, sanded down and repainted with a flex agent included in that paint. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Of course, you have your front camera here. You definitely want to make sure that that's visible, not cracked at all. Of course, you can have a stone hit that. So that's really going to mess up with your front and 3D vision inside the car. The front grills here, these are functional. These are actually ducts that go inside. Of course, they shouldn't rattle, but you know, they're plastic, so they're going to move around. These front headlights, if they don't have the triangle here, mine do not. A yellow triangle means that they have laser light in them. Laser light headlights are more expensive, so if you do not have a good insurance policy to cover for impacts or comprehensive damage, you're going to pay a lot of money to replace one headlight. I believe it's around $6,000 US. Now, some BMW i8s already have a mount here for the plate. Mine came with a mount for a front plate in the trunk. I decided not to put it on. I put this mount here on the car, and this has a gap between the front and the louvers here that have the intake. This is also removable, so there's a pin that I can pull and take this out. So if I'm at a car show or someone's taking photographs of the car, I could take that front plate off immediately. Another thing I like to look for is the gap. So I want equal gap here between the hood and the fender on both sides, and the same around the kidney grills here. So if this gap isn't right, then this hood needs to be adjusted. Under the hood are different adjustment points that you can unscrew to increase the height and level of the hood. This is a pain in the neck to do, so if it's not already leveled, then it may have been in an accident or somebody may have screwed something up. So that would be a major concern for me, and I might actually walk away from a deal just because of that. Because when these hoods shut tight, everything looks perfect, and the factory makes sure they come out looking perfect. Moving back here on the hood, you'll see that this is the vent for the radiators up front. There's 4 radiators in this car, so you do need good cooling. Anything from 2014 up to 2017 has this style of hood, this style of opening. The 2019, 2020 cars have the louvered opening here, and that the louvered opening only has like small holes here on the side. In order to add sufficient cooling and venting, there are ducts underneath the hood that run out. So you don't want to buy a car like this and then put the more restrictive cover in it. If the car comes like this, keep it like this. So if somebody has a 2015 for sale and they have the hood with the louvers and the small holes, they may be restricting airflow. That's a bad thing. I would avoid that. I'm also going to note that you should be able to check the tires for the tread depth. If you have a tread depth gauge, that's great. If not, of course, you just want to make sure that the tires have more tread than the wear indicators. If it's a CPO car, however, this should have more than 5 millimeters on each tire. And of course, for the brakes, you should be able to look in through the wheel and be able to see the distance between the rotor and the caliper to measure brake depth. Now that's only the outside pad and not the inside pad, so that gives you a good idea though if pads have been replaced or they're still new, whether or not they still have enough brake pad material on them. So seeing this will be able to tell you if this side of the caliper is okay, but not the inside on the other side of the rotor. So you might want to get that measured or checked out, but I typically just take a look in here and see the distance between the rotor and the caliper. I got enough meat on that brake pad, then I should be good to go and replace the pads or fix a caliper if I need to. So as I'm coming down the side of the car here, of course, I'm making sure that, you know, there's no impact with the mirrors. Sometimes people coming in and out of garages are going to hit the mirrors here. And I'm going to open the door and I'm going to make sure that it opens up on its own. If this does not open up all the way and you push the door and it goes up higher, the door struts need to be replaced. I have a video link in the description below. These door struts cost about $90 a piece, and you can negotiate that into your sale. Some of the things that I like to look for in this door, making sure that this gap here between the door and the leather is not big. These clips that are in here do wear out sometimes. I also want to make sure that the weather stripping is in good shape, but I also want to check to make sure that this wire loom is in good shape. I've actually read where people online have said that this is cracked and it's exposed their wires. So I want to come up with a way to preserve this plastic so it doesn't crack on my car, but it may be cracked on the car that you're looking to purchase. Another thing you want to make sure is that all these bolts here are connected. Sometimes people will take a bolt out and this wire loom may fall off. That needs to be in place. So all the bolts need to be here. Same for the door hinges. You got 2 here, you got 2 here. Make sure everything is where it needs to be, because putting a door back on and aligning a door can be expensive and likely will require a trip to the dealer, because I don't know how to get a T45 Torx bit up in here to tighten these bolts right now, but I'm trying to work on that. You want to make sure your i8 comes with 2 key fobs and the battery is good in them. And inside these key fobs is another key. So let me pull that key out of the fob real quick. You'll see here that there's a detent, and when you push down on that, you can pull out on the key. So it looks like this. Both keys should be cut for the car. These will open your glove compartment and also the emergency unlatch for this door. So if we take a look, there's actually a place to put a key right here, and your key can fit into this keyhole. And if the car is already locked, this will unlock the door when you turn it. Since my car is unlocked, of course, this won't work, but that's what this spare key is for. Another thing you want to look into is making sure that these emergency releases here at the top of the door work. Now, you'll be sitting here and you could reach over your left shoulder and use this emergency release to get out of the car if the battery dies. This requires 2 steps. So if you push down here, you can pull up until you hit a 45-degree angle stop. That's when you have to have your finger underneath and you pull up on a little nub, and then it releases all the way. That will then unlatch the door. So a lot of times people will pull on this and they will break it because they'll try to pull it beyond this 45-degree angle without reaching down and releasing this this extra catch that's under here. So if the car does not work properly, then these need to be replaced. Not sure the cost on them. I'll have a link in the description below for what this particular mechanism costs. So that needs to work before you buy the car. And again, here on the driver's side, we're going to check the same thing with the door struts. We're going to make sure that this loom here also is in good shape. We want to make sure that all our bolts are in place. And if everything looks good as far as this door is concerned, including, you know, back here, then we're good to go. Looking at weather stripping, on this part of the door, this weather stripping is only glued to the car. And a lot of i8s, especially the 2014s, 2015s on the forums, are showing problems, and mine's already exhibiting this problem. I didn't notice it before until I read about it. So this is the glue that's starting to deteriorate. The actual weather stripping is okay. The back of the weather stripping looks good, but the glue is not holding up anymore. So I'm going to have to tear this glue off here and put new weather stripping glue on. I'll probably do another video on that. It may already be out by the time this video comes out. Another part of the interior you may want to consider looking closely at is right here. You will see marks, lines from people getting in and out of the car and dragging their feet across here. So you can't get this out. And you can cover it up with vinyl, but you're going to scratch the vinyl. So this may be a part you want to negotiate the deal down on if you have any type of marks. These predated me. I didn't add any more marks to this, but previous owner wasn't as careful. And this is just an annoyance. If you get any type of rain or water, you're going to have all kinds of spots and stuff right here. It's annoying. On a regular car, it's down lower, so you really can't see it. But in this car, when you throw your legs over, you're going to get your pants wet in the back. So definitely want to keep like a rag or a towel in the car on rainy days. That's just an annoyance. Now looking at the passenger and the driver's seat, pay close attention to the seat bolsters. These are starting to wear, and it's the same with, you know, this part of the seat. Now this car has less than 30,000 miles on it. The reason these wear is because the coating on the seat is environmentally safe. So they didn't want to use any type of products that were potentially bad for the environment, but what that means is that your seat doesn't last. So people have developed a ceramic coating for these seats. If your seats are in good shape, definitely check that out. I'll post a link in the description, but I haven't used it yet. But that way, you know, if this seat needs to be repaired, I can decide this cracking could be repaired, and then I can go ahead and purchase that ceramic coating myself. So while you're here at the door, you can hit the trunk release, and that should pop up. And we want to make sure that our trunk pivot and spring, and that's this here, is in good shape. And I have a video on how to replace this if it's cracked. Sometimes you could see on the very bottom of it, for example right here where it's starting to get some wear, that definitely will need to be replaced if it's starting to show any kind of wear because it can crack. Also down here we'll see that this is where the pivot rests. Of course it's leaving a mark, but this is a drain hole. This is where water escapes from the trunk area. So if this drain hole is not open, then it's potentially a problem for maybe the previous owner that had the car. They could have had water pile up and then start to go in here. So if you open up your trunk area, now I have some things in here right now, and I also have a WeatherTech mat, link in the description for this. If you feel the floor has any type of moisture on it, then water's gotten in here and it could potentially go into the sides where the electronics are. So while you're in the trunk, if you want to go ahead and just pull this latch open, you'll see in here is your tow hook, and this is your compressor, and some fix-a-flat material is there as well. And in some cars, I believe there's a first aid kit in the European cars, as well as a triangle that's mounted down here in the European cars. And we don't have that in the States. So this looks like what you should have in your car, and if you have a wheel lock, you would also have that as well. This is in the wrong place. There we go. So there's your wheel lock, there's your tow hook, and there's your compressor. And I would suggest going ahead and undoing the cam lock adjusters and pull this up and make sure that the engine compartment looks okay. Link in the description. I did an oil change and some other work as well, so that you can see what that's supposed to look like when you pop that up. And also make sure that your struts here are holding your glass up. This glass should go all the way up. If not, those struts need to be replaced. So before we hop in the BMW i8 and check out some of the internal components, if you do have a scan tool, there's an OBD2 port underneath the dash. Link in the description. That's where I actually did the BIMR code, but I'll show you what type of OBD2 connector I use. And the app that I use is called Torque Lite. So link in the description below for that. So before taking the BMW i8 on a road trip, there are a few things that we want to check out inside the cabin. So what I like to do is put my foot on the brake and hit the start-stop button. And I want to look to see what all the lights in the dash indicate. All these warning lights should go out on their own. So right now I'm just seeing the park brake and I'm seeing the lights are on because, of course, it's dark in my garage. And then I can come over here to the iDrive controller, and if I hit menu, I can come down to vehicle info. So let's take a look at vehicle info here. And this is where you could see if there's something that needs to be updated with the car. So if I hit vehicle status, I can check the oil. I can look at the engine oil level and it'll tell me if the engine oil's okay. But I'll also come down here to check control and I'll see if there's any issues. All systems okay. So that's decent, that's good. Up here in service required, if I hit that, it'll tell you if any of the services are necessary, and in my case, they're all okay because I maintain the car. But if you're looking at an i8 and then none of the service has been completed, it should show up here. But then again, the person selling the car could go in and clear this and say, I did the service, and in fact, they didn't. So take this with a grain of salt. So the next thing I want to look into is, does the heat work without the mid-engine running? I should be able to turn the heat all the way up and I should be able to feel heat coming out of the car. That's great, because if this is not working, then some of the components in the air conditioning system, which work like a heat pump, don't make the heat come out of the car. So the heat exchanger could be broken, the modules could be broken, it could be a wiring issue, a whole host of things. So we definitely want to make sure that this works. Usually the air conditioning always works, but we want to make sure that the heat works in electric mode. Usually if it's in gas mode, it'll always work. So that's been something that's been failing with some of the i8s. People saying, I don't get heat in electric mode. Well, you should get heat in electric mode. So the next thing I want to do, I have my seatbelt on, I have both doors shut. At this point, I could take my foot off the brake and touch the gas pedal and the mid-engine should start. So at this point, you can hop out of the car, you can go back to the back of the car and see, what that sounds like. Are you getting the right colored smoke coming out of the exhaust? I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. But if I was outside the car, I could actually look at what the smoke looks like and then decide, is it burning any type of other liquid other than fuel? So if it's a black smoke, then it's burning oil. If it's a white smoke, then it's burning coolant. And both of those, they're not good. They're not supposed to be coming out of the exhaust pipe. So you definitely want to look at that. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and turn the car back on, and it's going to be in electric mode. You want to make sure that you can press this button over here. This is the fuel door release button. It's going to say preparing for fueling and then refueling possible. If it does not say that and it gets stuck at 25%, you have a pressure gauge inside the fuel tank that's defective. And I'll link in the description below on how to fix this problem by just unlocking the door and keeping it unlocked at all times. But in order to check this, once you have refueling possible, you can get out and then press the fuel door. So refueling possible, I should be able to unlock the fuel door, just press it and it'll unlock and unlatch, and then I can open it. And then when I close it, I should be able to hear a lock going into place. Yep. So the fuel door is now locked. Of course, I modified mine so I don't ever have to do that. Link in the description so you never have to run into this problem. And taking a closer look at the charging port here. Charging port opens and you should be able to see that everything is okay here. There's no type of water or condensation either inside this cap or here. There shouldn't be. This should actually seal the water out, and you should be able to plug your charger in and it function correctly. The BMW i8 should come with a wall charger that you could just plug into a normal outlet. You don't need a high voltage charger. That charger is sufficient. And once you plug that in, you should see differences in colors here to tell you that it's actually changing state, and the diagram is here to let you know what's happening. So while it's charging, it's going to flash blue. When it's fully charged, it's going to be green. And you know, if this is plugged in, but it'll lose wall power, this can turn red. And you know, so all the indications are here for when you need to charge the car, exactly what it's doing. Now, as you do charge the car, keep in mind that the fan up here in the radiator can start to spin. And if you take a closer look, you can see it in there. That may try to spin on its own in order to provide cooling to the system that charges these batteries that are in the car. So be aware that that's going to make some noise sometime. Don't stick anything over here because it's going to blow off. Now, this is not an all-inclusive list. It just covers a lot of things that I would look for if I were buying a BMW i8. And that's based on my last year of ownership. But I do want to warn you, if there needs to be a repair on this car, and it requires BMW to perform the repair, it can be costly. So if you buy a car with a CPO warranty, you will have less risk. You buy a car with a factory warranty, same, but once either of those expires, the risk goes up, in my opinion, substantially. And I don't want to devalue the car here, but my recommendation is to at least have $10,000 on hand for repairs per year. And the reason is because I've seen so many things in the forums that scare me. One gentleman put his car in storage for the winter. When he took the car out, it started to give errors. When he tried to drive it, it gave even more. The car broke down. It had tons of errors. The dealership didn't know how to fix it. They contacted BMW in Germany and they said, you need to start replacing practically all the modules at this point. We don't know how to fix the car. Now, how much is that going to cost? That's a worst case scenario. And I've only ever heard of that ever happening one time. But imagine if that's your car. And you bought this great BMW i8 and you don't have money in the bank for the repair, you can't even drive it. You can't even sell it. Nobody's going to buy a car in that shape. So be very wary that when these things break, they can be extremely disabling. It could be something minor that just needs a decent repair like any other car. It could be something that has to do with the engine, the intake, computer module. But sometimes you just get a warning that says, you know, drivetrain error, pull over immediately. What happened then? I've seen where there were problems with the electrical machine electronics here up in the front. And if something doesn't communicate correctly, then it just turns it off. It says you can't drive the car. Or you may be driving along and have a problem and it says pull over. You can't restart the car. You have to get a flatbed, take it to a BMW dealer, and they say, well, there's a problem with the shift module in the mid-engine because the shifter that you control on the center console is not connected to the engine. It's connected to a computer. That computer talks to another computer, which then performs a digital to analog conversion in order to engage the gear in the transmission in the mid-engine. If that isn't working properly, you can't drive the car. So this car can be disabled for a number of reasons that scare me. So that's why I recommend have on hand about $10,000 to spend per year of ownership of having this car. Because if you don't, you're definitely taking a risk by continuing to own the car. Now, there are some third-party warranty companies that early on in the BMW i8 you could purchase a bumper-to-bumper warranty. But when I called Car Checks and said, I just want to see what different insurance I can get for this, they said it's just a powertrain, it'll just cover the engine. I said, what about all the other electronics? Well, no, we don't cover that. I said, well, why not? Well, that's just what we cover. You know, none of our third-party insurers that we deal with want to cover anything more than that. So I'm trying to transfer the risk to them in case there's a problem. They transfer the risk right back to me. They don't want to deal with it. And if you buy a extended warranty through BMW, you're going to pay thousands of dollars here in the United States, like $5,000 a year, just to have warranty. So if you're able to obtain a third-party warranty, that's great, but if you're looking right now, you may not be able to find one that actually covers what needs to be covered in this car. So please consider that. Make sure you do have enough money on hand for repairs. That's the biggest issue. So effectively at this point, this video is over. Please see the links in the description because I covered a lot of material here. Definitely do your homework, do a lot more research. If you have any questions, please reach out. Please give me a big thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel and ring that bell for notifications, as I'll be hoping to post more BMW i8 content more often on this channel. Thanks for watching, and happy motoring.